Welcome, comadres and friends. I am Maria Ferrer, Executive Director of Las Comadres para las Américas. The leadership team and I are pleased to have you join us tonight for our 17th year conference. Can you believe we're in the 17th year? It's exciting. It has been our privilege to support Latino authors throughout these 17 years, and we look forward to many, many more. We'd also like to extend a warm welcome to our readers following us on our Twitter chat at Read Latino Lit. Tonight, please help us welcome authors Lissette Decos and Joe Segura. The interviews will begin shortly. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Please keep yourselves on mute. You can keep your videos on, but don't move too much because it can be distracting to the authors. We suggest you put yourselves on speaker mode, but if you want to do a gallery, that works just fine. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will try to get to them. And if you want to tell us where you're from, that would be great too. Okay, but first, let's start with a little bit of our book club's history. Comadre Tess.
Buenas noches, comadres. I am Tess Tobin, project manager of Las Comadres and Friends Book Club. Our first book club gathering was in July 2004 in New York in Comadre Maria Ferrer's apartment. After a brief hiatus, Nora Comstock re-envisioned and relaunched the book club nationwide to promote the work of Latino authors to every book lover, to bring our community to bookstores, and to support our Latino writers. We started our teleconferences in October 2007. This year, we are celebrating our 17th year and are delighted to be sharing works by Latino authors with all of you. We created the teleconferences and book club to entice everyone to read more Latino authors and to learn about Latino roots and the different perspectives on Latino culture and heritage. Our book club and Zoom conferences are open to all, not just Latinos. We are creating a space for everyone to explore the Latino writer's mind and soul as portrayed through the written word. We encourage you to join our local book clubs in your city or time zone. We have clubs in 12 cities that are meeting virtually and some now in person. There is sure to be one that can fit your schedule. If your city doesn't have one, why not help us start one? For more information about our book club, visit our website at latinolit.com. So please invite others to join us. Comadre Karen, take it away.
Welcome, comadres and friends, to our February 2024 Zoom teleconference. I'm Karen Gonzalez, Assistant Coordinator for the Las Comadres and Friends Book Club, Denver Comadres Book Club Facilitator, and co-founder of the Colorado Alliance of Latino Mentors and Authors. Thank you for joining us tonight. We begin our interviews with Lissette Decos. Lissette is a Cuban-American executive television producer with over 15 years experience in reality TV formats of the love, wedding, relationship, disaster variety. Shows such as TLC's Say Yes to the Dress, 90 Day Fiancé, Bravo's Summer House have helped mold her skills in telling an engaging and oftentimes unconventional love story. Anna Takes Manhattan is her first book. Interviewing Miss Decos is Comadre Belia Lagarda, who is a 7-time Los Angeles Emmy Award-winning television writer and producer. During her 30-year career, she helped launch numerous award-winning shows and specials for ABC, CBS, and NBC Telemundo networks. She now lives in Jersey City and writes screenplays, among other part-time jobs. Take it away, Comadre Belia.
Welcome, Lissette. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And I thoroughly enjoyed the audiobook. The woman who read it, Inez, was amazing. Any authors out there, take note on how to get this done right. You really have to listen to this book. So Lissette, what inspired you to write Anna Takes Manhattan? What did you want to show?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a good question. It was a couple of things. At the time, I was working in Manhattan on a wedding show, Say Yes to the Dress, and you have, I was single and dating in New York, and it was really, difficult. And being around all these like super happy brides on the show was just ripe for a show, for a book for me. I've always wanted to write, actually, like you, I've always wanted to write screenplays, and I started there. And then I just struggled a little bit with writing this idea as a screenplay. And I thought, oh, a book will be easier. That was not true. But at least it just sort of felt right. It felt more right than a screenplay to me, at least to start with. So that's where that started, was this idea that it would be fun to put someone in that situation where they're single but working and surrounded by really happy brides. But in terms of the Latinness for me, I feel like it's extra difficult, I think, when you're Latina like Ana is, and doesn't really feel like the sexy parts of Latina, like the really, comfortable in your own skin and powerful kind of Latina. So I think that in terms of that story, it was really important to me to tell. It's like for her to coming into herself.
Oh, okay, now I get it. So how much of the book is fiction and how much of it is fact, if you were to give it a percentage?
Oh, it's high. It's a high percentage. Honestly, it's probably pretty high. I would say it's around 70. I think a lot of it's exaggerated, obviously, even the real stuff, or things that I've experienced or things that I'd heard friends experienced in terms of like bad dates, because that's what Anna does, is go on really bad dates. So a lot of it is my own experience, a lot of it is friends' experience, but even those are, exaggerated.
So I felt a lot of LA influence in this book. Did you ever live there, or where are you from? Give us a little bit about
So
your
I'm from Miami, originally born and raised. Both my parents are from Cuba. So I feel like I definitely, while I identify as American, I don't at the same time. I still feel like Miami is like, I felt like I spoke Spanish first, growing up. So I was raised in Miami. I went to college in North Florida, and then like a year after college, I moved to New York. So I was in Manhattan for a long time. And so the last like 5 years, I left New York,
So
but I've never lived in LA.
oh, that's so crazy. I guess
Yeah.
it's the industry that I saw a lot of similarities. So was writing this book therapy for you? Did you have like a Maria and Jorge episode in the Yes for the Dress series?
So no, that part not so much, but I do feel like there were moments when you're writing, at least it's happened to me a few times, where you think you're separated from it and you're like, I'm just telling a story. And then at the end you're like, where did that come from? I was feeling that way. I didn't realize I had these issues with my father, or like, I think after the fact, I would see things in the reading it again or revising or whatever, that I was like, God, it was cathartic in ways that I wasn't aware I was, I needed it to be. Yeah, I lost my mom, so I think Anna dealing with the loss of her mom was really important. I've definitely experienced that loss, and so there were things in there for that, sure.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I missed it, but did you ever say what the mom died of? I thought that, I wanted so much more of that part of the story. I thought it was very touching.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I didn't mention that. Only that she got sick and passes away. No, I didn't mention exactly those details. No.
Okay. What I felt was so enlightening and revealing in this book was what it was like to be in your 30s and hope to find Mr. Right. It's much more complicated with the cell phone and the pace of life right now. So that was like, wow, is that what it's like? Even more so than in the Sex and the City episode. Did you feel like you wanted to show how it's done now, or is this fantasy?
I think for me, one thing that I do think that it is, a lot of it is how it's done now, sadly, but I do think one thing that for me that was important was women today, or at least my friends that work, especially in my industry, it's like really strong women, you know, that are like very comfortable making their own life, making their own rules, and just living life by their own rules. And I think that the idea that you can get what you want if you just work hard enough is really, that's just how it feels. You get to this place where you're like, I just have to do what I need to do. But that doesn't translate to personal life. It doesn't translate to like a boyfriend, but you feel like it should. You're like, wait, but if I can do all this other stuff, I've been able to create this whole life for myself. Why haven't I able to find the guy or the person, my partner? I do think that's kind of a hard lesson that you're not used to, because you're able to just get all the stuff that you want to get, or the lifestyle you want to get. I don't know. I think that was something that my friends and I felt were like, God, it's all these strong, independent women I'm seeing around me. And so there's a part of that, like, I'm just gonna make him. I'm just gonna date all the wrong guys, and together I'm just gonna have that feeling, however I can feel it, is what she's going through, comes a little from that space. And I do think that's something I picked up from my friends.
All right, now I get it. This is so good. Okay, so what about the father-daughter relationship? Was that a fact for you? Tell me about that.
You know, I think it is, for sure. I think that there's a sweetness there of, again, this like independent woman thing, where people, especially in your family, start to think that you don't need anything, you know, that you're just like this really strong person. It's hard to be vulnerable with your family when you're like this A-type go-getter. And I think that's something that she has to learn, is that it's okay. It's actually stronger to be vulnerable, stronger to call someone and say, listen, I need help, you know, and that they're not going to think any less of you. In fact, you're giving them an opportunity to care for you. And I do think that's true, not just with my father, but with brothers and with, you know, with people in my family that I felt like sometimes don't realize that you could be vulnerable. They just haven't been given the chance to be there for you.
So that whole pressure to have a child, to be married, I mean, that was clear in the book, and I just totally identified it with that. Tell us how has that been a fact in your life too, or?
Oh my God. I mean, I'm sure that's true for Americans, but I feel like it's harder with Latinos. I don't know. I'm sure it's true for everyone, but my goodness, I feel like that didn't stop until like, I don't even know, like yesterday, the day before yesterday. Yeah, people always wondering like, what, you know, you live in this big city, where's, you know, who have you met? How's, you know, and also babies and this and that and marriage. And there's just all these expectations. It doesn't matter like how much you're accomplishing or how much happy or not happy you look, you know, or seem to be. It's really these like social things that they're, you know, to some extent, you understand, because at least my family, you know, I know my great grandmother married when she was like 15 in Cuba, you know, it's like, it's a very normal thing
Wow.
to have this lifestyle look a certain way. And I can see why they were maybe worried about me, but I'm still single, if that matters. But it's great. Yeah, but
My favorite character was the doorman.
oh,
Uh,
that's amazing.
he was like the reality check. Was that a fact in your life, or?
I actually did have a doorman for a very little time. It was only like 5 months, but in those 5 months, I did experience some of the things that she experienced. It was definitely bit long enough to create a character out of.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, definitely somebody taking notes on your life and saying, okay, what are you okay, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So that was really good. So with all the secrets and lies of Anna's rich best friend Gia, who is trying to control her life, I thought you were brilliant in showing how eventually that facade catches up with you and you need something real. Was that your intention?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to sum her up. I think that's exactly right. And with Gia, I think there's even someone who on the outside seems really together and just really confident, shouldn't have any reasons to keep someone strung along to make them feel good. It's still there. And I think that was really interesting to me to show that that I feel like the confidence is another really big part of the book.
I loved hearing about Bianca because in the industry, whether you're on the 10th floor with the documentarians or working reality TV, you have to survive the Biancas, the vultures. And I couldn't get enough of her. They will do anything to get ahead. And I was thinking of the series Unreal and wondering if you wrote this book in hopes of a series.
That's a great question. I mean, I started this book as a screenplay. So for me, I mean, I'm a huge fan of rom-coms and love films, you know, romance movies. In fact, I discovered rom-com books, women's fiction in the weird way because I've always loved comedy writing. It's something I've always really enjoyed, like Dave Barry and all this stuff. But I started to write this story as a script. Struggled for a couple of years, worked really hard, and just felt like I didn't have anything to show. And then, like I said, I was like, I'm just gonna write this other book. That'll be easier. And then just in the process of doing that, I started to read more rom-com books. I was like, what is this genre? What is this world? Now I was really absorbed by the books, actually. So it sort of, I fell into it. I wanted to write, but I didn't know this is what I wanted to write. And now I'm in love with it. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still like trying to do better, but it's definitely been a weird kind of path to it. But yes, I would love to see the book made into a series. My agent is trying to get that done. You know,
Oh, okay, cool.
She's working really closely with an agent at CAA that loved the book, and so you never know. It's definitely a long shot.
It would definitely be easy to do though because it reads like a script. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear from you. Thank you.
And the spoiler alert I have is I also loved how you took the time to show how your relationship with your editors was so sacred. Whomever it was, they played an instrumental role in your success. So I was just wondering, was your plan to make his role at the end that much bigger?
Yes, definitely. I feel like there's a lot of little almost like little seeds, you know, like little moments that could grow into something more bigger in the series if you had more time, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so are you writing a sequel? What are you doing?
I'm not writing a sequel. It hasn't been something that I necessarily like wanted to do or felt like I needed to do. I've had a couple of really interesting ideas from readers wanting to give like someone like Maria and George their own spin-off or some of the characters that she makes the shows about. And I thought that would be a lot of fun. I'd like to do new characters, but for the last since this came out, I've been working on a new book. I'm actually about to deliver it this week to my editor. So we'll see how that goes. It's a whole new story.
And is it a rom-com or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I hope so. My intention.
So are you still working at all now as a TV producer?
I am. I've been able to get to a place with this one production company that I've been working with for the last few years on a series called 1,000-Pound Sisters for TLC. And at that show, they've allowed me to work as a consultant. So I work in the mornings writing till around like 1, and then I turn into TV producer until the end of the day. So that's sort of been the balance. I do feel a little bit it's all storytelling, right? Both angles, both jobs are similar for sure, but they're different. They're different. The writing is 100% me, and so it takes a lot. I think it takes more.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the TV is I've done it so long that it does come a little easier. So I kind of, I'm glad I do it second because I wake up a little smarter, like by 1 o'clock, I'm like fading and it's like, oh, I can do this, this is a lot easier for me than writing. But certainly by the end of the day, it does feel a little like scrambled eggs.
What is the show again that you're working on?
It's called 1,000 Pound Sisters.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great series. It's on its like 5th season now. It's airing now. It's funny. It's about it's about a sisters that are really close and they need to lose weight. So they're on a weight loss journey and they are very funny and very challenging characters. So that's my favorite part is that they're good. They give us some really funny lines.
Okay, so if you don't mind, if you can read us a passage of your book.
Oh, okay. It's I'm gonna read just a few pages, but they're really quick, so hopefully it's okay. All right. I have no idea what Gia's talking about. She's been rattling on since we sat down at this new Dutch restaurant in Soho she wanted to try, but my mind won't stop replaying the grim final moments of this afternoon. Why did I have to get Canadian swans? I'm gonna get fired. When is this martini gonna kick in? I don't look as old as her, do I? Gia points to the woman sitting at the next table. No, I whisper and take a bite of sauerkraut-encrusted cornbread that I've slathered in butter. Everything's a competition to Gia. She's VP of a production company that specializes in competition reality TV shows, and I think it's made her lose some perspective. That's why we're here, about to try the herring sashimi. Gia always has to be the first to discover a unique restaurant, underground electro swing band, or teen prodigy designer selling garments out of a dirty taco truck. She smiles seductively at the young waiter pouring her a glass of water. Gia was born in Brazil, which I believe is what makes her a man magnet. Today she's wearing a slim tie and a man's button-down shirt, and she still manages to look sexy. When we first met, Gia tried so hard to get me to connect with my inner sexy Latina. I tried to explain that I was second-generation Cuban American and my Latin spice had been watered down or possibly left on the island altogether. What about him, she says, pointing to a Bohemian guy at the table across from us. He's been checking you out since you arrived. Gia's other full-time job is finding me a mate. I'm going to stop there, if that's okay.
Oh, there was one last question. Did you need to get permission to use a celebrity like Usher in the book?
I didn't because there weren't long enough lyrics. So as long as you maintain certain amount of, you just can't use any of their work. But yeah, no, I didn't have to. They didn't give me any problems with that.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for everything. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really sweet. Love you guys.
Oh, gracias, comadres. Our second interview is with author Jo Segura. Her stories feature strong, passionate heroines and draw upon aspects of her life, such as her love of good food and great cocktails, dancing, her Mexican heritage, and her fascination with archaeology, which inspired her debut rom-com Raiders of the Lost Heart. Interviewing Miss Segura is Comadre Maria Ferrar, Executive Director of Las Comadres para las Americas. Comadre Maria, take it away.
Hi, welcome. Welcome, Jo. Thank you for being here with us. We're very excited. We love your book. I think we share your love of, all things, Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones. We are big fans as well.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I told the group already that I'm getting over a little bit of an illness, so my voice is not as beautiful as normal. Normally I sound like Selena, but not tonight.
She's so modest too. So before we get started with my questions, share a brief synopsis about your book for those of our readers who haven't started yet?
Yeah, so Raiders of the Lost Heart is an enemies to lovers adventure romance about a Latina Lara Croft who is searching for her Aztec ancestors' remains in Mexico. And when she shows up on the dig, the dig's being led by none other than her grad school nemesis, Dr. Ford Matthews, who's a hunky Indiana Jones type of archaeologists. And so the two of them have to work together to be able to find the artifacts. And of course, that they start digging up old feelings while they're at it.
Very cute. Now, you and Lissette have been very brave and written a nice romance, comedies. But romance novels have always gotten a bad rap. They've been put down and everything. What do you love about romances that, inspired you to write one as well?
I like that romances always have a happy ever after. A lot of people say, oh, romance, it's just smut or it's so predictable. But that's one of the reasons that readers go to pick up a romance book, because they know that they're going to leave the romance book feeling good. They're going to be happy. They know that they're going to have these characters who fall in love and, end the book in a good way. I love reading other types of books as well. I love a thriller. I love, a suspenseful book, but they don't always leave me happy. Sometimes they leave me thinking, really awful things about the world. I don't feel that way when I read romance, though. I read these books and they put a smile on my face, and I think about them later, and it gives me this opportunity to, get those warm, fuzzy feelings that you get when you first fall in love. I've been married for many years now, and there's nothing quite like when you first fall in love. And, I can still get those feelings when I read a romance book, and there's nothing else that's like it. And so that's why I love romance. And, I think that people who give it a bad rep are probably people who've never really read the genre. They just think they know what it is, and don't really give it a shot.
No, I agree. I agree. And, a lot of those thrillers and those, Oscar-winning movies, all of them have romance in it. It may be a little bit, but there's a romance in there, and you're not going to get that Oscar without a romance. But anyway, we read in an article that your favorite line from the book is, Ford wasn't built for adventure. Ford was the adventure.
Yes.
So we thought that was very, very sexy. But Corey is an adventure as well. And we love how she is, Ford is like very professional and sort of, he seems to be like a by the book kind of guy. Whereas Corey, she's so tactical. She has to touch the earth. She lays down in the dirt. She rolls around in it because she communes with the dirt. Archaeology is dirt, and that's her business. So I thought it was really cute that they're the same but different and stuff. So we know your love of Indiana Jones and Lara Croft. Is that what was the moment where you said, aha, I'm going to put these two together?
So I came up with the idea that I wanted to write this book about these rival archaeologists. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be kind of I love adventure movies to start, if that's not obvious. But I thought, oh, wouldn't it be really cool to see Indiana Jones and a Latina Lara Croft on a dig together? I bet they would hate each other because they're both, the best in their field, right? But at the same time, they're both very, very attractive. So I thought these two would definitely have the hots for each other. And I thought about all of these adventure movies that I love, and they always feature this white male archaeologist or explorer in some other foreign land where he's destroying everything along the way, and temples are crumbling and boulders are falling down on artifacts. And we love them for it, right? They're the heroes. We think that they're great. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if instead we had the person who's the one kicking all the butt and being amazing, the woman, like a Lara Croft, but that the guy, he's there to help her rather than the other way around. And so I just thought it would create an interesting dynamic, having these two who deep down are very similar. They have a lot of differences between them, but their philosophy and their the fact that they're both really smart people who are used to being the lead, I thought that would create a lot of tension between the two, where they would really be butting heads. I just thought, oh, it'd be just fun to write these two characters. They would have such delicious banter going on throughout the whole book. And again, they would definitely have the huts for each other. They just have to. I mean, how could you put the two of them in a room together and have them not be attracted to each other and probably annoying each other while they're at it?
Yes. I mean, there were lots of funny parts, and this is not a spoiler, just so everybody knows this is not a spoiler, but it's hysterical when she drops her dildo on the floor and he's so embarrassed. It's like, I mean, come on, a girl has to she takes it on the dig with her, and it has a name, and it's hysterical, and he is so embarrassed. What was so funny was that he was so embarrassed.
Yes.
Oh, that was very funny. Understand that you wrote the bulk of this book during NaNoWriMo and stuff. Can you explain to our audience what NaNoWriMo is?
Yeah, so National Novel Writing Month is every November. And the point of NaNoWriMo is that it encourages you to write the book, because we always have all these roadblocks as to why we can't get the book done. Oh, I don't have time, or, I've got all this other stuff going on, or I'm waiting for the perfect story, or I'm waiting for the perfect words to flow from my fingers. But the point of National Novel Writing Month is just to get the words on the page. They don't have to be the best words. They don't have to be the perfect words. They just have to be words. So the goal is that every day, I think you're supposed to write something around like 1,500 words a day. And if you do that every day, by the end of the month, you will, in theory, have 50,000 words. It's not, I think it's a little more than 1,500 words a day. But 50,000 words is not really a full-length novel. I think Raiders of the Lost Heart is maybe around 93,000 words. But, again, the point isn't necessarily to have the finished book by the end of the month, but it's to get you going, to get started, and not to worry about all those other obstacles that might be keeping you from writing the book. And so I've used that time a couple of times to write manuscripts, just like a first draft of a manuscript, because it gives you that motivation. There are, thousands of people who participate. It's free. You just sign up online. You don't even have to do it through the official NaNoWriMo website, but there's an online community that's like encouraging you, gives you like little badges every day, kind of like, if you have like an Apple Watch and it tells you that you've done all your steps for the day, or you've stood, the number of times in the day. It gives you like a little badge that you checked in that day, you've hit a certain milestone, and it gives you just energized to continue writing the story. And so I wrote the bulk of Raiders of the Lost Heart during NaNoWriMo. I didn't write the whole thing because, I edited a lot of it once it sold. So, I added words there, but, just 50,000 words, that's still a lot of words. And then after that, I usually will take December off because it is a lot to focus on in 1 month. It gives you some time to digest and then get through the holidays. And then after the holidays, I go back in and read what I've written in November. And sometimes, you're like, wow, I can't believe I wrote that. And then sometimes you're like, whoa, I can't believe I wrote that. But Raiders was one of the times that I've done NaNoWriMo where it just felt right from day one. The very first line you read in Raiders of the Lost Heart is the very first line I wrote during that NaNoWriMo. And chapter 1 is almost exactly what I wrote. It was like this book was just waiting for me to write it.
So how long did it take you after, so that January after the NaNoWriMo? How long did it take you to get it like polished and ready to show?
Yeah, I think I spent maybe another 2 months finishing drafting it and editing it. I asked my critique partner to read it, and then by I think May, I had it pretty much done and was ready to submit it to agents. And I had already submitted it to, or I had already had another book that I was working on that I was trying to get an agent with, and so this was another book that I then pitched at the same time. And when I eventually signed with my agent, we decided to shop Raiders of the Lost Heart first because it was a rom-com. It was coming, right at the height of the pandemic. People really wanted an escape. People wanted to laugh. They wanted to be happy. And, Raiders of the Lost Heart really gave you that type of feeling when everything else was so, gloom and doom in the world. Gave people, gives you something to be happy about and laugh and not take yourself too seriously.
Mhm. And so you purposely wrote a Latina heroine, a Latina Laura Croft. So you did that on purpose. Do you think that today's readers, not so much the Latina readers, but regular readers, in the middle of, central USA, are they ready to accept Latina heroines? Are they liking more diverse characters? Do you find that's, something that's true, that, it's not all white again?
What I have been really pleasantly surprised by is the reception to Corey's character. Everybody seems to really love her. Ford, he can be kind of a jerk. I've heard people say, oh, privileged white man who's entitled, he gets everything he wants. And that is true. And, they see then the Corey character as someone who combats against that. I've also, I purposely wrote this character, like I talked about earlier, you have all these really great adventure movies with these white men in foreign lands, but they're searching for other cultures' artifacts. They're not searching for something that they have a personal connection to, with the exception of Nicolas Cage's character in National Treasure. But, I wanted the main character of this book to have a connection to the artifacts that they're looking for. This means something to her. This is her believed ancestor. And so she feels that she has more of a right to be searching for these artifacts than someone else, someone like Ford. And that was really important to me, that this character have that connection, because like I said before, I really love all those movies, but they cause so much damage and destruction along the way. And Corey really respects what it is that they're searching for. And the readers have been great. They've really, really enjoyed this character and have said that she really resonates with them. And they like that she's a badass and that she's out there searching for something that has meaning to her. And I just think that's great. I'm so excited that people have really liked this character, because I was a little worried about that. You never know what readers are going to think. But readers have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I have. I wanted to ask you, one of the things that I found very, that I really cheered for, and I mean, I was cheering all the way for Corey, but one of the things that I found was very nice and very respectful of nature, because we are trying to shelter our earth. and trying to, heal our earth from pollution and everything that we're doing. But what I found was interesting was, first of all, it was so cute when she goes on the site and she tells him, you're in the wrong place. Right away, she can tell that they're in the wrong place. So she walks in and she's like, sorry, babe, you are in the wrong place. And he's like, no, you're in the wrong place. You're missing this, this, and this. And then he's like, oh, yeah. But what I thought was interesting was that, so now they're going to close this site and they're going to move on and they're going to look at other places. But before they go, he, Ford, and it was Ford, he tells his crew, he's like, okay, so we're going to be moving. So let's, take all our equipment out. But then they stay an extra day to make sure that the land is back the way they found it. So they're going to put the dirt back. They're going to, reinforce the walls that they had taken down off the cliff and stuff. I thought that was very, very well done. And that spoke so much to, the healing of our earth that I don't know, because I know that you went on a dig and we want to know about your dig. So is this something that you learn on the dig where if they're moving, they put everything back in place and try to, get it back to, what it was before they, went in and made some destructive things?
Yeah, so I fully admit that I am not an archaeologist, and I've been on an archaeological dig, but only one time. So I'm not like some expert. I did some research when I wrote the book, but I'm sure there are things that an actual archaeologist would tell me I didn't get right. But I do have one of my really good author friends. She's an archaeologist, and she says, actually it was pretty accurate. She's except there was a lot more hooking up happening on the site. So, I feel good that I got a lot of that right. But that is something that we did when we were done with a particular area. We did kind of return the site back to what it looked like before we were there. We were digging pits in the ground. We covered those back up and everything just looked like dirt when we left. But I think that it's really important that, we're not just going out there and digging holes and just leaving things and, not returning it back to the way it was before it was disturbed, especially in an instance like this where they weren't even digging in the right site. But, for Corey in particular, she is very aware of the destruction that they're causing. Even when we get further into the story, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, but get into further in the story, and she even questions when they're not following the proper protocols, because that's not what they're to do. They're there to study. They're there to, make discoveries, not to just, tear things up and, not preserve it in the best way that they can. And so I think that's really important, so that we're not just destroying the earth. We're making these discoveries because it's important to understand who we are, how we became who we are, understand the cultures that came before us. But in the end, one of the best ways to do that is to also protect and preserve what those people had in the past, and not just, dig it all up and leave a mess for, people to come later.
Yes, I really appreciated that. I love that part. We want you to also read a part of your, the opening lines of your book so that everybody can see. And then I have 2 more questions. But before we get you to read, I have to mention the cover. The cover is amazing. It was so cute. Here it is. Yes.
Yes.
Now, it definitely looks like Laura Croft. It definitely looks, like Harrison Ford and everything. But I have to ask, okay, I don't know, can you see? Hang on. Okay, is the little god sticking out his tongue at me?
He is.
I knew it.
Yes.
On the cover, the little Aztec god is making fun of us. Look at that. He is sticking out his tongue at us. I was hysterical. When I noticed that, I was hysterical.
I love
I was
the
like,
cover.
this is amazing.
I was so pleased with it. You know, when you are the author, they ask for your opinion, but in the end, they get to make the decision. And my publisher was really great. They took a lot of my suggestions and my feedback. I will say that the Corey character was modeled after Salma Hayek, who I think is one of the most beautiful women ever
Yes,
to have
yes.
lived. And so I thought that was really important that they really, they really took those notes and gave me a fantastic cover. I love this cover so much.
Beautiful. Okay, so we want you to read a couple, your opening page, and then we want to know what's happening with the lost moon.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read from just from the very beginning of the book. Yes, 1001% yes. Corey Mejia's thighs tensed under the antique wooden desk in her office as she gripped the arms of the matching chair. The old Mexican pine creaked under the tension as she forced her body to remain calm and commanded her face to appear as if she were still considering the offer presented by the balding middle-aged man sitting across from her. This was the moment she'd been waiting for since the day she decided to become an archaeologist. Now that it was finally happening, it took all her strength not to launch out of her seat and accept the job without knowing any details. Not that it would be the first time, but who cared about details after hearing those glorious words, words she'd longed to hear for decades? Because you, Dr. Socorro Mejia, are the world's most brilliant archaeologist and the leading expert on the subject. We want you and only you, because no one else could possibly measure up, for an all expenses paid, no expense spared expedition to Mexico to search for the remains of the Aztec warrior Chimali and the Tecpado sacrificial knife he stole from Moctezuma II when he fled Tenochtitlan right before the downfall of the Aztec Empire. Well, okay, he didn't say it quite like that. It was more like, I've been sent here by an anonymous investor to offer you a position on a Chimali expedition. But the implication was still there. No one knew more about Chimali than Corey, and she was fucking brilliant.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. That was wonderful. So
Sorry
now
for my
tell
swear
us.
words. Sorry.
Yeah. So tell us, there has to be a Lost City of the Moon sequel, right? Right?
Yes, so again, not to give any spoilers away, but I am working on a book too, and if you have read Raiders of the Lost Heart, you will see possibly a continuation of where it left off. And you will likely see some familiar characters, though I will let people know right now, it will not be starring Corey and Ford. I've had a lot of people ask that, and I feel like I just need to tell people that. But you will still see some familiar faces in book 2. There will be more info about that soon. I can't say much more right now, but I've seen the cover, and if you like the cover of Raiders, you will love the cover for book 2. I thought there's no way they can give a cover that's as good as this, and it's amazing.
You have to make sure that they have another little god sticking their tongue out at us. It's now going to be your signature.
Okay. I'll
Okay?
ask them to make a little edit.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for being here with us. And Comadre Tess is now going to close the evening for us. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Oh, 1 minute, I lost it. Sorry. I had it on the screen. It disappeared. There we go. Okay, here we go. Our many, many thanks to authors Lissette Decos and Joe Segura and their publisher Forever Publishing and Berkeley Romance Publishing for their generous donation of books to our early registrants. Thank you as well to interviewers Comadres Velia Lagarda and Maria Ferrer. We thank our audience for taking the time to join us tonight and to those that submitted questions. And we'd like to thank all our volunteers without whom this book club and all the associated work would not happen. Mil gracias. Please remember to support our writers by writing a review of their books on sites like Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes and Nobles, etc. Those reviews carry weight with the publishers as well as other readers. Buy books to support our authors, and if your library does not have a book you want to read, ask them to order it. And please attend your virtual local book club meetings and bring a friend or two. Remember, our book club is open to men and women, Latinos and non-Latinos. All are welcome. Our March 2024 books are Chicana Portraits, Critical Biographies of 12 Chicana Writers by Norma Elia Cantu, What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez by Claire Jimenez, and The Mystery of La Llorona and Mr. Llorón by our very own Karen Gonzalez. Again, thank you all for your continued support of our book club and Latino literature. Please join us in celebrating Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club throughout the year by buying books and supporting Latino authors. Muy buenas noches a todos, y remember to read Latino Lit. Thank you very much.